Hello, I'm Jeff Carter with Seattle City Club, and joining me today is Sara Kilisky, also with Seattle City Club. And today, as part of our Civic Bootcamp on local government and politics, we'll be talking with Amanda Sandoval, an immigrant and refugee commissioner at the City of Seattle. So welcome, Amanda, and thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm super excited for this conversation.
So we're going to start up kind of basic so that people know what's what. What function do commissions serve in local government? What is a commission?
Yeah, so the City of Seattle has several commissions. I can't even think of all of them off the top of my head, but essentially they advise the mayor, city council, and various city departments on how services and programs and resources will impact either the respective groups that they're representing or different communities that they represent. There's like, I think there's like what is it called? Like, there's like a biking commission. And so how does that affect the biking community? And we are in a position that we can share resources both with the mayor and the city council and also with our respective communities. So it's kind of interesting that we're like the go-between the two groups. So we pass information from the city to our groups, and then also we hear concerns and we're kind of like on the ground with our own communities and can bring that up to the mayor and city council, which has been really fun.
And you work on the Immigrant and Refugee Commission, right? So what does that work look like, and how did you get involved in that?
Yes. So I have been working with the immigrant and refugee community within just greater King County for a while. I come from an immigrant background. My family is here from Mexico, and did a lot of work just in my academic world in school, and then got connected with the IRC down in Burien. And then eventually someone had mentioned the Get Engaged program, and Immigrant and Refugee Commission was one of the commissions you could be on. And I was like, okay, this is perfect for me. But the Immigrant and Refugee Commission meets once a month, and we just discuss different things that are happening in different programs that are happening in the city, different legislation. We get updates from the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs, or OIRA, from Seattle. We meet with various organizations within the community who are representing different immigrant coalitions. What else? We also meet with various other commissions just to build community and see if there's ways that we can support each other. I think. And then also we get different guests, either from city council members or just various departments who either want recommendations and input on programs they're going to start, or sometimes it's literally just, here's what's happening. Can you spread this? Can you spread this news to your community? So those are always really fun.
And you mentioned the Get Engaged program. What is the Get Engaged program?
Yes, it's a really great program that the Y runs. And it's for young people ages 18 to 26 or 29, I want to say. And it's a way to get younger people on the various City of Seattle boards and commissions. So every year there's like a fresh new cohort. I think it's like 15 people. But so you obviously have your commission that you're on, and then also there's your cohort. So the cohort meets once a month, and it's just a way to build up advocacy skills and support each other. This is a lot of our first time being on board in a commission, and so it's really nice to have that group to kind of be a sounding board and to vent when needed and to get advice and just to have extra support. And then we usually have like guests that we'll invite to teach us new things with the cohort, or sometimes we'll do like advocacy things in the community to try and get more young people involved, whether that be on the boards and commissions or just getting involved in general local politics. But I think it's a really great program, and I would recommend it for anyone who is looking for a way to get involved but doesn't really know where to start.
Great, thanks. Sara?
Yeah. So with your experience in coalition building and organizing, what is the role of collaboration between commissions, as you mentioned a little bit?
I think it's the most important thing. I think being in community with different groups and different commissions is really the way you're going to get things done. There's a lot more power when different commissions get together and they're like, here's what we're advocating for, and these three commissions are also supporting this. So that happens a lot through like different letters, and then we also have regular, they're called 5-chair meetings. So it's the two co-chairs of commissions getting together with, so it's like all the social justice commissions essentially get together quarterly or monthly or when needed to discuss things. And then also collaborating with city council. Sometimes we'll get invited to their meetings just to hear what's going on and as a way to share information.
Great. I'm just curious, what's like an example of something a few different commissions got behind and had like more success with?
Yeah, so with the recent protests, I think just about every commission like penned their own letter, and then eventually we all did, not all, I think there's 5 of us that sent a letter out to the public, and we either address the mayor or city council or both, but it's a public letter and a public call for whatever we're asking for, and that really just has more of an impact. It's better than just having like, oh, this one commission is saying that they want this to change, but it's like when it's 5 or 6 or when all of the commissions are demanding something, it's a lot more impactful, and you're almost guaranteed a response.
Yeah, I'm sure that solidarity is really important. So how does that collaboration tie in with bringing in immigrant community members and other advocacy groups?
Yeah, I think as far as collaboration and the immigrant refugee community, a lot of commissions and different programs rely on us to, like I said previously, to get recommendations and to be the sounding board of how this is going to impact various communities, just because they don't have that expertise. What commission? I think it was like the Parks Commission was rolling out. This is like earlier last spring, I want to say. They were rolling out like a new social media campaign, and they had come to us and they're like, how can we make this more accessible? And they're looking at it from a very different lens than we are. And I think that's, to our advantage. So we told them, like, are you thinking about having this in various languages? Is your homepage have the option to have translation on it? Are your programs going to be like culturally relevant to some of these groups? So there's a lot of things that people don't think about, and so they come to us and they're like, well, give us your perspective on it. So.
Mm-hmm. So I saw you've been doing interviews with different refugee and immigrant people, and so I'm wondering, what have you been learning from those interviews throughout King County, and what are some of their main concerns?
Yeah, I think overall, if I can just sum up in like one thing, it's just the opportunity to be at the table and to be included in plans and things that impact them. I feel like a lot of time, I wouldn't say just local government, I think it's just organizations also do this in general. We tend to want to be like the voice for people, and like we're like, oh, like we know what's best for them, and it's like, it's really not true. Like you have to ask the people most impacted, like what they need, what's going to help them, and so really just having a seat at the table and feeling like their voices matter and like they are a part of the community and they are valued, I think is the most important thing. And a lot of the things that they want for or ask for are pretty, I would say like simple, or they're just like things you'd be like, oh, of course they would want this. Like why isn't this like a law or a policy already? Like it's just, it's not something that's complicated. It's just something that we don't think about if we're not, talking to those most impacted themselves.
Yeah, that's really important. So How have your fellow commissioners been able to influence the mayor and city council in different ways, like advocating for their needs?
Yeah, like I mentioned before, I think one of the biggest ways that we are able to influence the mayor and city council in just various programs is, writing letters, inviting either the mayor or individual council members, or even different departments, if there's something that we want to influence with the department, to our meetings. And then also, again, like I said, working with other commissions, and even working with, there is a King County Immigrant and Refugee Commission. There's also a statewide commission. So really like partnering with them and just seeing how we can build power and how we can influence different things. I think has been one of the biggest ways to influence.
So, has the commission been able to like raise bills or have any like sort of like binding recommendations like that?
So we make a lot of recommendations, and we'll look at different legislation that's going to pass. I don't think we have done that personally, but we'll, a lot of times before it goes to city council or after, before it goes to the mayor, it'll come to us and they'll be like, okay, like what do you think about this? Especially with the movement to defund the SPD budget, we were able to have them come to our meeting and present the budget beforehand, and we were able to ask questions and give our recommendations and be like, here's what you didn't think about, here's what we would like to see. And it's been really great to have those conversations and to have them come back, because it's been more than one, and it feels like they're like, okay, like they're listening to us and they know that this community is important and that they need that buy-in.
Yeah, that's amazing that you're able to advocate on behalf of immigrants and refugees and like influence the decision-making process in that way. I'm wondering though, like what have been some challenges and wins for you in that process?
Yeah. For me personally, I think the biggest challenge is just learning how to work within the system. Being on the commission, there's certain things that you can and cannot do. There's bylaws that everybody has to follow. Whereas my role with the Mockingbird Society, like we're an independent advocacy organization, like we don't get funding from the city or the county or things like that. And so we're really working outside of the system and can push in ways that those who are working inside can't. And so it's been super interesting to see the different levels of like advocacy when you're in the system and then when you're out. So super fascinating, but that's been an interesting challenge for me. And as far as the win, I think just how quickly we were able to adapt to the current situation, with the coronavirus happening. There was a lot of conversations around different communities being impacted, families, veterans, young people, and then immigrants and refugees. And so being able to advocate for this group at different meetings and to raise their issues was really important to us. And we've been like pretty successful in that. And I think the biggest win has been being able to share resources. There's so much coming out of the city or even the county, for funding or for just different various resources, and it doesn't always reach everyone that it needs to. It's not always accessible, and so being able to like be the go-between has been really, really awesome to see, and to being able to like see that in action has been awesome.
Thank you. Jeff, you want to take it
away? You mentioned a little bit the Mockingbird Society. Can you just briefly talk about what you do with the Mockingbird Society and what that is?
Yes, so we are an advocacy organization that works to transform foster care and end youth homelessness. We're a statewide organization, and so at times I'll go to various meetings with like city or county departments or with different like big organizations, and they're talking about specific communities, and those people just aren't represented in the room. And when I ask like why aren't they here, or what kind of community outreach did you do, the blanket statement is always like, oh well, it's on our website.
Mhm.
And like, that's the extent of them, you know, reaching out to people. And it's just like, that's not true outreach. That's not like true community building. And so being really intentional about how you seek out these people. And then also just how accessible are you making these meetings, forums, panels, you know, et cetera. Being inclusive doesn't mean it's accessible. Just some things that I can think of is it's like, what is the language access? Are you offering childcare? Can you pay people? What time are you having this meeting and forum? Like, is it during working hours? Is it in the evening? You know, is there a bus route to get there, or are you offering transportation? So those are just some of the things to think about. And then another piece that's forgotten about a lot, and even I see this like all the time in my work, and you would think at this point you'd be a little better about it, is having a feedback loop, especially when you're engaging with like young people or just communities that aren't typically engaged with. It's important to go back and let them know, like, you know, thank you for your opinions and your recommendations, and, you know, here's what we did with that, and, you know, here's where you can see like how your voice impacted what we're doing. Because nothing is worse than going to like a meeting or like a panel, like a whole day thing, and then giving your recommendations, and then you just never hear back about what, you know, what happened. So really having that feedback loop is a vital piece.
Yeah, I think that's like good for encouraging continued engagement too. Welcome back, Jeff.
Sorry, I had an internet connection issue. Did you continue?
Yeah, I believe it's recording.
I think so,
My
yes.
end now. So yeah, I just asked Amanda about, you know, with her experience with the Mockingbird Society, how local government can better engage with underrepresented youth and BIPOC people, et cetera. And learned a lot from that response of making events and stuff accessible.
Great.
So yeah, do you want to ask a few
Sure,
questions?
sure. So I guess based on your response, how can, I don't know if you've answered this, but how can those groups channel their concerns into policies and action at the government level?
Yeah, I think it's all about relationships and collaboration, and finding people to support you and your cause, and vice versa. And then also remembering it's like policy is incremental, like it's not going to happen overnight. I think when I first started, I was very frustrated. I'm like, well, why isn't this happening now? And like, why is this like why aren't we thinking bigger? And it's just like, you have to think it's small steps, and it's gonna you know, it's hard to change a system overnight. And so really keeping that in the back of your mind, that it's like, it's gonna be baby steps, and like you'll get there eventually.
So if you had to talk to somebody who has no idea where to start, what would you say? Like, yeah, go ahead.
Uh-huh. I would tell them that they are not alone, and don't let perfect be the enemy of good. To find your group of supporters, and to, you know, build relationships with as many people as you can. You know, even if they're not necessarily within your like sphere of like what you're advocating for. And to also, I mean, me personally, I would say, I would think about like, is this an issue that you should be championing for, or should you be supporting somebody else who's already doing the work? Especially at the Mockingbird Society, you know, we have a lot of people that come to us and want us to advocate for a legislative change, and we're not necessarily the experts on that. And so really thinking about like, is this our lane? Like, should we be the one doing this, or is there somebody else that's already doing this work and that we can just support? You know, just an example, we have some people who will come to us and want us to do some things with tribal legislation, and like, we're not a tribe, we're not indigenous, that's not our lane. But they're like, oh, well, it involves young people, and it's like, yeah, but we're not the experts. So we try to be really conscious about that, and we'll support whoever is championing that. So just one thing to keep in mind.
Thanks, Sarah. Do you want to finish
Yeah.
us? Yeah.
So along those lines, what would you say to someone feeling disillusioned about the system? And how can you encourage them to still engage and have hope that change is possible?
I would tell them they are not alone. And it's perfectly fine to feel like that, and to take breaks and to rest when you need to. The work will always be there. There's always something that needs to be changed or fixed, but it's so worth it. Um, and like I said, I think we want immediate results and immediate change, and it's hard to trust the process. Um, but I would say, again, like, it's worth it, and seeing all your work come to fruition is like the best feeling ever. Seeing your legislation get passed, or a program get fixed or started, like that's like truly the best thing to see. And I would say, like, change is possible. You just have to, like, be patient and yeah, take breaks. Especially now, there's like so many things happening in the world, and it's just like you just got to take breaks and just, tackle the small things.
Yeah, it's definitely important to have self-care at the same time, but to keep at it. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
Thanks, Amanda.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
And we need to thank our Alaska Airlines, our Civic Bootcamp supporting partner, for helping us put these programs on. So thanks again, Amanda, and sharing your wisdom with us, and have a great day.
Thank you. You as well.
Okay.